All right, what's going on? It's Camel Money Beats, and I'm here today to talk about that one dreadful word that everybody hates hearing, including myself sometimes. I've definitely gotten better with it, but you hear this all the time. You hear you gotta be able to be consistent. You gotta have consistency. You gotta be consistent in this. You gotta do this. You gotta constantly, and it's just like everyone's so sick of it. But I think that the reason why is because people are not really talking about what that really means. Like just telling someone, yeah, yeah, go ahead, be consistent, go ahead, do that. That it's not enough information for people to really go off of. So I'm kind of here to share my story with consistency a little bit and kind of some ways that you can kind of incorporate, what that really means to me and like how you can use that to basically, have that kind of a thing. And like in a nutshell, the best way that I can describe what being consistent really means is basically being able to build like a rhythm for the things that you do, right? Like what happens with a lot of people is they'll hear that, okay, you know they'll have someone say, yeah, you got to be consistent with like the music you make and your posts and blah blah blah. And you start looking at somebody else and they're like posting like 5 reels a day, and they're making like 3 songs a week, and they're posting like a music video every other day and all these, and you're like, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to be able to do all those things, right? And so what starts happening is you're like, okay, I did 3 reels today, and I did this and I did that. And then eventually maybe you don't keep up with whatever bar that you've set for yourself, and over time you become behind, and then you start beating yourself up and this whole game, and then you just give up. You're just like, this is too much, right? And what happens is that you get overwhelmed with this idea of trying to keep up with this competition, and like everybody's doing this, so I got to do this too. All of that is bullshit. Okay, I'm just going to say that right now, that like you can't put yourself in that place and think that you have to be like the next guy to have any success. And it's a mindset that you have to get over, and something that you have to realize that you have to build up to a certain level of this rhythm before you just jump into it. If you think about it, it's like working out, right? Like if you go to the gym and you see this guy, he's in there for 3 hours a day, and he's bench pressing like 350 pounds, and he's just doing all this crazy stuff, and you're just like, yeah, like this guy's super strong, I'm gonna do the same thing. And you go and you can't even move the bar at 350 because you can only bench 120. And and you're, after like 40 minutes, you're just like sweating and dying. And so it's like you have to build up to what that guy can do. And it's the same thing as far as being consistent. And I would say that that's where a lot of people, they get stuck with this consistency thing, is that they get overwhelmed and they don't understand what this really means and how they can kind of adjust things to make sure that they can kind of keep up this rhythm. So, what I would suggest in that kind of regard is doing a couple things, right? The first most important thing is to be able to start with something that you know 100% that you can do, and to do it in such a way where you can do it on whatever basis, whether it's a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. But you're doing something in a certain way, and you're starting this rhythm really slowly. And I would say start really small, like whatever it, like 100% that you can do on that time basis. Even like if you're a rapper and you're like, yeah, I want to write, and record 5 songs a week. Well, maybe how many songs have you been writing and recording for the past few weeks? Have you been able to keep that up? If you haven't even written and recorded a song for a few months, that might be a lot to jump to. I would even start as small as, writing 4 bars a day, or writing something super small, or 1 song a week, or something that 100% that you can do that thing. And same thing with the content, right? Like I know the music is part of it. The biggest thing about a lot of days of how to put yourself out there is people are telling you with the content and with Instagram and TikTok, and YouTube too, that you got to be consistent. You got to always put stuff out, put it out, put it out, put it out, put it out. And it's just like, whoa, this is too much. So even if you're focusing on making one quality piece of content at the same time and putting it out every week, and doing that, because at the end of the day, like if you can just do that one piece of content per week, by the end of the year, you'll have 52 pieces of content versus if you do 3 this week and then you get overwhelmed and you give up and life happens and then, maybe you have, 10 at the end of the year because you've put so much pressure on yourself. So this rhythm building and this making habits that can kind of encourage you to do that is kind of the foundations of what, in my mind, what consistency really means. So you start with these 4 bars, every day or every 3 days, and then you start with the one piece of content, and you just start to be able to do that as your consistent thing. And as you can do that, maybe you add more. Maybe the 4 bars becomes 8 bars, and the one piece of content becomes 2 pieces of content. And then you keep doing that, and then you add on some more. And eventually you can build up to a place where you're like, okay, this is a good level of putting stuff out and it's comfortable and I know I can do it and I've built up my skills and I've honed my craft into doing those type of things. Because other than that, once you become overwhelmed, and the other thing that will start happening too is, your mindset changes and you start kind of beating yourself up that like, man, I missed a day or this started happening, right? And then you start to like have this negative thought process of like, maybe I'm not good or maybe I can't do this or like, I don't know what's going on. Anything can come up in your mind, right? And it's that's exact opposite will start happening when you do start this level of consistency and start doing things more and more and more. And I encourage you that as you continue to do more of these things, start to reward yourself. There's a phrase that you might hear from time to time, and I'll definitely say it from time to time, is you want to reward yourself for the effort process, right? Like if the goal is to have a song and a music video in a month, don't just celebrate when the song and the video are out. I mean, definitely celebrate when you do that, but celebrate when you write that one verse that really knocks. You're just like, yeah, that's a dope verse, or that hook that or whatever, right? Or you found that right beat, or you kind of put it all together. You did some rough drafts. I mean, every step of the way, when you complete whatever small task, give yourself a pat on the back. Really like acknowledge that you're making progress. And as you start to do that type of thing, right, even if you're doing this 4 bar at a time thing and one piece of content, you start to like reaffirm in your mind like the things that you're capable of doing, and that will just compound on itself. Because at the end of the day, the real point of consistency is to like have that compound effect that over time, all these things will build up and it will build you up. It's not about having the whole thing done all at once, right? They say, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? I think that's the phrase. So that's the same concept, just start a little bit at a time. And my golden tip is doing the things that you can do in a small enough space and being able to do that over and over again and slowly building up more and more on top of that type of thing. So that would be my first tip on consistency. The next step of consistency, and definitely something that's happened to me and something that I've learned from, is that you can never really predict what's going to happen with your life or what's going on moving forward, right? You like maybe, you have a few days that you can make some stuff, and then the next day you get a flat tire or something happens, God forbid, nothing worse than that happens to you. But if something happens, right, you obviously got to take care of it, but it might take away from you being consistent, right? So then people might think, okay, how do I keep up with life and this consistency at the same time? So especially when it comes down to in regards to content creation and being consistent with your content, the thing that worked for me the best and what's working for me now is kind of capitalizing on the times that you are free and the times that you do have available to basically max out and try to make as much content as you can. And that way, you can have something for a few days as a stockpile in case something does come up, or you are busy, or you're going to be in the studio that one day, and you're not going to be able to make certain types of content, So what I do personally is I might take a day or two when I have more free time and I'm caught up on other things, on emails and calls and different things like that. And I'll set a chunk of time where I'm making this content, or like when I just happen upon some free time, like, damn, I got 4 or 5 hours right now, I can make some content. I might make a few pieces of content, and then from there, a lot of these platforms like Facebook and Instagram, I'm sure TikTok, if they don't have it yet, there's got to be a way to do that where you can basically schedule these posts ahead of time. And so for me, what I'm doing is I'll take like a Sunday and make some content, and I'll try to make as much content for that upcoming week that I can. And if I can make all the content for that week, it's becomes great, because then at a certain point, now the rest of the week I have free to really focus on, making more beats, connecting with more people that, want to work with me, doing this kind of like business side of things, instead of only focus on like every day, like, okay, what's that next piece of content? What am I going to make today? What's going to happen today? Right. And this pressure starts to come back in. So, take the time to do that type of thing, get ahead of yourself. Even on TikTok, for example, and Instagram Reels, I know you can make a bunch of content and but save it as a draft. And then once you have those drafts there, all you have to do is just at the time that you want to post, you go to your phone or whatever, and you pull up the draft and you submit it and you post it. And it's makes things so much quicker. So that would be my other, point when it comes to being consistent with content. Just being able to stockpile certain things so that when it comes time to it, when it comes time to, keeping up with that schedule, that you have a way of doing it. Because again, like I'm saying, with life, if you have kids, you have other things going on, especially in these times of COVID and all this other stuff, you never know what's going to happen any given day. And the more you can be ahead of the game and have things kind of scheduled out, the more kind of peace of mind that it's going to give you towards making that kind of content, or being consistent with your music, or having time to put into your music more now that your content's already taken care of. That doesn't mean that you can't post other content in the meantime. If something comes up, or somebody, does a cool little video to your song, like, go ahead, post that thing too. You can do things however you want. It's just finding a way to make it work for you, so that it can happen, and you can basically keep that consistency up. Because again, at the end of the day, it's not about the next guy, it's about you and how you can stay consistent with the things that you need to do, regardless of what everybody else is doing. Because you can still have a level of consistency, even if it is, one piece of content a week and, one song a month. You can still do great things with that. I mean, even if you look at bigger people now, these big guys, Kanye and J. Cole and Jay-Z, like, they're not there suffering, putting 5 reels a day and doing all that stuff. They're focusing on doing the quality of their music and their albums, and a few music videos, and then some interviews and things like that, like, because they understand that there's a certain, you don't want to sacrifice quality over this just content microwave, constantly, just pressing things cookie cutter, so that you have this consistency out. So you find the balance in that, you build a rhythm for it, and then you find a way to kind of get ahead of the game if you can, so that you have this peace of mind, and you can get things going. So that's kind of my 2 cents on consistency, if you could see that. And that's what I want to start teaching people, is that it's not about overwhelming yourself. It's about doing these small things, building up over time, and having those things build up to a certain point where you can slowly kind of get to a place where you're good with it. That, like, okay, I'm good with 3 reels, every other day, and doing, 3 pieces of other content, and making 1 song a week. Like, this feels good. I'm getting good results from this, and I want to keep this up, and then focus more on making my music, or doing other kind of branding opportunities, or things like that. So that's going to be it for this video. Definitely, please, if there's other tips or tricks or things that you want to learn, as far as, other ways of get your music out, or content stuff, or anything, just regards to any part of being an artist or rapper or singer, definitely leave a comment down below as far as the things that you want to learn, and I'll definitely make a video on it. So that's going to be it for this video. Thanks so much Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.